Okay, we're ready to roll.
All right. Good to see
Miss
everyone.
Bennett. Um, Welcome to this session on working capital and investment capital for Black-owned business enterprises. And welcome on behalf of the Department of Business Administration, of our School of Business, our students, faculty, staff, and alumni. The backdrop to this panel is the pandemic. Its devastating economic and business impacts, and the fact that we are now moving into recovery mode. And I want to commend our previous presenter, Dr. Amina, from halfway around the world. The prescriptions that she laid out, I was smiling as she presented, are almost exactly the same type of strategies and prescriptions that we should be utilizing here in the US and right here in Brooklyn, in the heart of Brooklyn. As we know, Brooklyn is the epicenter of the pandemic. A few blocks from our campus is Downstate Medical Center. And I was on another presentation given by the Urban League, where he mentioned the two highest zip codes negatively impacted by the pandemic, 11203 and 11226. Well, that's Medgar Evers College. Those are the highest recruitment zip codes for our students. So it has impacted our student enrollment, it has impacted our retention, and it has impacted all the small businesses in the neighborhood surrounding Medgar Evers College. So we have with us today two experts who are going to lay out some of the solutions to this tremendous challenge of recovering our small businesses, our Black-owned businesses right here in Brooklyn, and moving to the future. Professor Lishawn Alexander, in addition to being our professor in public administration, is actually a woman entrepreneur providing high-level business services to small businesses and nonprofits right here in this community and beyond. And Kenneth Ebby, and she represents a national model. The solution to this challenge are right in our midst. The very businesses that have been harmed should be at the front of the line as all these resources are flowing online in delivering services to our small businesses, Black-owned businesses. And Kenneth Ebby is heading up a unique initiative coming out of our New York City Department of Business Services, which should be a national model. He is charged by his commissioner, Janelle Doris, with specifically focusing on the revitalization of Black-owned businesses. He has an initiative called Black Entrepreneurs NYC. So let's hear from first professor and woman entrepreneur Lishawn Alexander, followed by Kenneth Egby, the Chief Development Officer of Black Entrepreneurship NYC. Professor Alexander, share screen.
Hi, good morning. Good morning. I'm so happy to be here today. And so let me just share my screen with you all. All right, so thank you for that lovely introduction, Dr. Flateau. My name is Professor Lishawn Alexander, and I am a consultant, a business consultant. And so, as a result of COVID, we realized that there were so many challenges for our small businesses. From the jump, the PPP program that was available for relief, big businesses were the ones that really sort of took up the bigger share of the pie. And so, I just want to say thank you for good leadership. And so this provisions for the American Rescue Plan was created Wednesday, March 10th. So this conference is just on point with timing. because, our federal government has thought about the small businesses, such as my company, in mind. And so today I just want to touch on some of the provisions that are in this rescue plan to support small businesses. The rescue plan involves other aspects, but I'm going to be specific to the small businesses today. All right, so the bill provision, includes $1.9 trillion, right? And that's a lot. And over 50 billion of that funding is going to support independent small businesses. And so entrepreneurs for both blue states and red states were involved in the planning process, right? So Main Street organizations such as restaurants will benefit from this rollout and this package. Black, Latino, rustic, and different networks have felt the most noticeable awful economic impacts of the pandemic. So as Dr. Flateau said, with the numbers and the zip codes, our communities were the most affected. And so 34% of Black communities are seeing a 41% decrease, right? That's alarming, right? Those numbers are really tragic. And, it's important for small businesses such as mine to continue to thrive, right, during this climate. And so this funding that's available is something that, we're really expecting to not bail us out, but to allow us to continue to do the great work and the great service that we provide to our communities. And so the PPP 60 billion is going to be going to local area banks, community development, financial institutions, and minority depository institutions. And this was not the case for, the first rollout, where most of the funding went to big banks, because they had the ability to process all of those, loans and payments. And so thankfully, our leadership at the federal level is thinking about us. The rescue plan also provides an additional $7.25 billion for the Paycheck Protection Program. It expands eligibility for nonprofits. And we know that nonprofits also were hardest hit by COVID-19. It adds $15 billion for targeted economic injury disaster loans, and those are forgivable loans. So, as a small business, when you get a loan, the interest rates may be low, but it's always good to have a opportunity to have a forgivable loan. And so, at least our leadership is thinking about this in a more positive way to support, the hardest hit businesses. It's establishing a $2.8 billion restaurant revitalization fund, which provides grants to help local restaurants and to help us keep our doors open. And it's establishing community navigator pilot programs. And we all know firsthand that most of the times it's the pilot programs that help, find the gaps in terms of resources and building, in our community. So at least we know that they're thinking about this strategically as a government to support our local businesses. And then it's going to provide $10 billion in state small business credit initiatives to create jobs. Now, the American Rescue Plan Act, some of the information that I'm sharing came from our New York City Small Business Services. And again, I will share my presentation with everybody in the chat, so you have this details to reference later. But it's looking at state and local fiscal aid. So not just on the federal level, but it trickles down to the state level to support small businesses with the employee retention tax credit. So you can keep your employees on payroll. There's certain SBA programs that will, receive some types of tax incentives. Again, the EIDL grants will be available, restaurants, shuttered avenue operators and grant programs. And then they've expanded the PPP eligibility, right? So a lot of the smaller businesses, weren't able to provide a lot of the, you know, detailed budgets and spreadsheets and, the things that are required to receive loans. And so I'm sure with this expanded PPP eligibility program that some of those small businesses will be, able to receive revenue so that they can continue to support their communities and do the great work that they're doing. I'm going to share with you these links, but just quick. I'll share with those links after, but just a final thought here for my company, at Lishawn's Consulting. We anticipate that the American Rescue Plan will greatly affect the future of small businesses. This $50 billion in recovery will definitely stimulate our economy, because in order for our economy to be stimulated, we need money, right? We need funding to be coming into small businesses so that they can, in the end, hire more employees. They can produce more, products and services. So our thoughts is that with this recovery plan that, we're going to have, we're very optimistic that this will support us and trickle down to small companies, minority-owned businesses such as ours. I'd like to acknowledge our president for this act, the U.S. Small Business Administration, the Commissioner, John Doris, and his team, our School of Business leader extraordinaire, Dean Joanne Rowe, for her leadership, and Raquel and all the team that works along with her, Professor Dr. Flateau for his leadership in the School of Business. I'd like to thank my own chairperson, Dr. Zulima Blair, as part of the public administration team here at the college. So anyone have any questions, any comments? Now would be the time.
Let's get to Ken, and then we'll open it up for Q&A.
Okay, and so you'll have the links in the chat, okay?
So let's thank our woman entrepreneur, Professor Lishawn Alexander, for that very informative presentation. And now on to our next presenter. He's from an agency that will be a key conduit for those tens, hundreds of millions of dollars that is going to be infused in the New York City economy to help our Black-owned businesses